I'd like to call this committee of whole meeting to order at 7 p.m. on May 15th, 2023. I would also like to recognize that we're on Treaty 5 territory, traditional land of Nitchisswayset Cree Nation and the homeland of the Métis, and that we are all treaty people. May I have an approval of the agenda? Councillor Coburn, Councillor Wong, all those in favor? Carried. Next, we're going into presentations and delegations. 4.1 is Kathleen Barnard, Save Your Skin Foundation. I just also would like to acknowledge just a moment, Kathleen, that we have Councillor Fitzpatrick and Councillor Donmark on Zoom tonight. And in the chambers, we have Councillor Coburn, Councillor Wong, Councillor Oberdorfer, Deputy Mayor Valentino, Councillor McIver, and Councillor Chong. Thank you. So Kathleen, would you like to go ahead with your presentation?
Thank you so much, Your Worship and Council, for having me tonight. My name is Kathy Bernard, and I'm the founder of the Save Your Skin Foundation. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that I am located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsay-Elks Okanagan Nation, on whose land I live, work, and play. I'd like to speak with you tonight about skin cancer. Skin cancer is the most common of all cancers. 1 in 6 Canadians born in the 1990s will get skin cancer in their lifetimes. There are more new cases of skin cancer each year than the number of breast, prostate, lung, and colon cancer combined. I know this firsthand, as in 2003, I was diagnosed with the deadliest form of skin cancer, melanoma. And by 2005, it had spread to my liver, lungs, my bone, my adrenal gland, and my kidney. And I was given 6 months to live. I would never have thought that my days as a child at our local lake or the days at the softball diamond would turn so deadly for myself and my family. Melanoma is now the 7th most common cancer in Canada and the 4th most common among people ages 15 to 29. It is one of the few cancer with incident rates on the rise among Canadians. Exposure to UV radiation through exposure to sunlight, tanning beds, and sun lamps appears to be a major risk factor for melanoma. Your skin is the largest organ of your body, and it's the one organ that we can see, or someone close to us can see. Early detection and prevention is key to this type of cancer. No cancer, including melanoma, can ever be prevented with 100% certainty, but the good news with melanoma is that the risk factors are very well known, so steps can be taken to dramatically reduce your risk of developing this deadly disease. So I'd like to leave you today with a few tips on how you can protect yourself and your communities. Always have sunscreen with you so you can apply it whenever an unplanned outdoor activity arises. Use a sunscreen with an SPF of at least 30 whenever you are outdoors, even on those cloudy gray days. Wear protective clothing with long sleeves, hats, and sunglasses. Check for changes in moles, new moles, and see your doctor immediately if anything looks suspicious. Try to limit your sun exposure between 10 and 4 and try to stay away from those tanning beds. You should get a cancer-related checkup by a doctor, including skin examinations every 3 years between 20 and 40 and annually for those 40 and older. Again, if you see something suspicious, see your doctor. So what can you do to protect your communities? Hopefully, you'll think about incorporating a sun safety through environmental design program, which includes looking through a sun safety lens when constructing any new structures, parks, or sports venues. You can also take part in our Save Your Skin Sunscreen Dispenser pilot program this summer. We would supply your community with 4 sunscreen dispensers and Health Canada approved sunscreen, and your city could determine where the locations you'd like to have them are. If you are interested in this initiative, please email me, Kathy, at Save Your Skin now, VACA. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Save Your Skin Foundation. We are a patient-led, not-for-profit organization founded by my family and I in 2006. We are dedicated to the fight against non-melanoma skin cancers, melanoma and ocular melanoma through education, advocacy, and awareness initiatives across Canada. Save Your Skin Foundation provides a community of oncology patient and caregiver support throughout the entire continuum of care, from prevention and diagnosis to survivorship. We are the leading melanoma organization in Canada and work with other patient advocacy groups to ensure that patients all across Canada get equal timely access to life-saving treatments. We're actually a little bit different than most patient organizations because in my darkest days, we had to travel outside of my home province and pay for treatment. All the funds that we raise at Save Your Skin Foundation literally go to patients needing mental health or emotional support or even travel. So we have moved a number of Manitoba patients over the past year that had ocular melanoma to a clinical trial in Ontario. We will even pay for patients in your province that need cabs or daycare. We always tell patients there is no ask too small, no ask too big, and any way we can help, they just have to contact us. For more information, please take a look at our website, saveyourskin.ca, and thank you for your time this evening and for helping us spread the word about this type of cancer. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We were very happy at the last meeting to proclaim May as Skin Cancer Awareness Month. And we appreciate you coming on and explaining it all to us and giving us your contact information. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to 4.2, Jennifer Devereaux, safety concerns. Come to the front desk, state your name, address, and go from there.
Sorry, my name, address, and
Name and address.
my name is Jennifer Devereaux and my address is 11 Red River Drive. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Like I said, my name is Jennifer Devereaux and I'm a single mother to 3 young girls. I was born and raised in Thompson, Manitoba. I'm here today to lobby and advocate for a safer Thompson and for the people, especially the children. Increase transparency and communication from the city and for the protection for the children of the Wapanuck area. I would like to elaborate on just one situation of violence within Thompson that has impacted my family. On May 1st, 2023, my daughter was beyond excited to take her bike out for the first time this spring. Her and her stepdad filled her bike tires and went to Wapanuck School so she could ride her bike around. Wapanuck Community School is just down the street from where we live. Her stepdad was watching her and enjoying her riding her bike for the first time this season. He was then attacked by a male he did not know, approximately 20 years old, and he appeared to be intoxicated by drugs. Her stepdad kept asking the guy to stop and to leave him alone because he was with his daughter. The male wouldn't stop. He kept attacking him, so we had to fend the attacker off and get our daughter quickly in the vehicle, all while being attacked. This act of violence is awful for any child to witness and has now left my daughter traumatized and petrified to attend a park. This is horrific for a 6-year-old to experience. A day later, I reached out to City Council and arranged a meeting with Mayor Smook. I met on May 3rd, 2023 with Mayor Smook and 2 city delegates. I walked away from the meeting. I felt the meeting was productive. I felt heard. And I thought this is going to be a start to a great working collaboration for a safer city. Fast forward now 8 hours later. Please see image 1 that I attached to my presentation. I'm going to read you a social media post that was made by the elected mayor on my personal Facebook page. Colleen Smook. I guess the fact I'm blocked on Thompson Talk and was not your friend, so saw none of this is irrelevant. As soon as you called City Hall, there was a meeting set up. Yeah, I called City Hall, there was a meeting set up. After the visit today, I requested to be your friend. She did. She said when we left the meeting, I'm gonna add you on Facebook. I accepted her friend request. We explained next steps and asked for your input. Thank you. I did share input. You can only imagine what went through my mind after receiving the RCMP report on this incident later this afternoon. You worried about your daughter's trauma? Yeah, I am worried about my daughter's trauma. Because many people who are on these streets today, the population we see, they're faced with trauma. Trauma is one of the leading causes of addiction. Colleen then says, you better look in your own yard before bashing the rest of us who do care. This Facebook friendship will be short-lived. I'm not here today to make Facebook friends. I'm here to advocate for a safer Thompson. While I met with with Mayor Smook, I shared that if my 6-year-old Inuit daughter wouldn't have made it home that night, we would have had a missing and murdered Indigenous woman child from a community school in your own backyard, referring to Thompson as our backyard. I'm appalled to see such a comment from the mouth of elected official who represents not just Thompson, but the hub of the North. I'm left to feel like she's mocking me and the possibility of my daughter not making it home. Mocking the trauma my daughter faced that day, along with the other children at the park who did not have a parent there with them. I'm thankful every day that my daughter made it home, because as a mother, I'm not sure what the outcome would have been if I was there alone that day with my daughter. I think about the what ifs, because I hope to be productive, proactive in this community, instead of a constant state of reactive. Now, again, I will reiterate, this is only one act of violence which occurred in an area of Thompson that is already faced with addictions, poverty, and adversity. So I ask, is this the mentality of our elected mayor? I would ask if Mayor Smook, when I'm done speaking, could elaborate on her comments. I shared my concerns today with Mr. Canoe, Mr. Redhead, Mrs. Ashton, my daughter's Jordan's principal support worker, and her Manitoba Inuit Association support worker, along with Bernadette Smith and the Manitoba Municipal Association. With the increase in the violence in our community, I ask every council member at this time, what is being done so Thompson is no longer the most violent city in Manitoba? What have you done to reduce the violence? My perception of what the city has done to increase the violence is voting to have the liquor commission next to Walmart and voting to have a sobering center next to a community school. The children of Wapanuck School and the Wapanuck area, they're already faced with adversity, addictions, and poverty. And their school was their safe place, but now that's been taken from those children too. I can say I strongly believe that mayor and council would not have voted to have a sobering center across the street from Westwood School or Riverside School. So I ask at this time, what will be done going forward to protect the people and the children of Thompson? I hope with everyone in attendance this evening, we can come together to make Thompson a safer community. I just would like to add, when I walked in, I heard Council Fitzpatrick having a conversation with Council Member Lundmark, stating that this should be an interesting meeting. And did you see her post? And then their conversation was muted. So I don't know if they would like to elaborate on those comments. But at this time, I would like to thank you. And I hope for the children of Thompson that we can have a productive collaboration going forward to decrease the violence in Thompson, because every child matters in this community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Definitely, I have the children of Eastwood in my thoughts. I did breakfast program at Wampanoag for 8 years, so I'm very aware of a lot of the trauma in the children's lives. And I do believe that we opened the healing center in that area because the province gave us those buildings and we needed to help people. I do believe even the children of Wampanoag will appreciate that the help that can come down to their friends and relatives down the line and the parents. We have met with the teachers and that. And to further reiterate today, I'm going to reach out to City Manager Anthony McGuinness and Inspector Worrell to let you know some of the plans that have been in the play, and that this opening of the healing center was basically step one in the community safety well-being plan, of which there are copies on the side here. So I'll go first to Inspector Worrell.
Yes, ma'am, I can, you asked me, and thank you for your presentation, and I regret that yourself and your daughter experienced trauma. You asked me for something, what's being done, or what has been done, or what's being done for public safety and kids in the community. So I can give you some things that the RCMP is involved in the community. So, and some of the things I'll present tonight in my PC report is as an example. So we're working on a joint initiative with community safety officers to target public disorder downtown. So as an example, again, as we'll get into my report, we did a joint initiative in CSO on April 22nd. We wrote about $34,000 worth in tickets relating to unlawful consumption, public disorder, loitering, that kind of stuff to deal with again the public disorder and the public consumption, alcohol consumption. We're working with the liquor inspector currently to target unlawful sales and had meetings with Walmart to restrict the sales of items that contain alcohol in them, such as Listerine, to try and address again that problem from Walmart. We're in the schools pretty much every day, been working with the youth. We are volunteering in the breakfast programs at the Wampanoag School, at Juniper School, and all the schools pretty much in town. Our officers are in the schools every day, volunteering in the breakfast program as well as reading books in the classes and helping promote those relationships and good healthy decision making with their youth starting young. Our officers are on constant proactive patrol in the community when they're not on calls of service. Keep in mind that we are pretty busy here. We're also presently researching the use of e-bikes, so electric bikes to be able to get around town with the future and different social pathways on down, so you don't put sometimes. I'll try to see if that will work this summer. We're taking steps right now to bring the Big Park program to Thompson to target some of our property offenders. Again, some of the same offenders that are maybe involved in crime, that are also involved in property theft and violent crime for me. We've taken an active part in the Public Safety and Wellness Committee. We were part of that initial startup of that committee, as well as developing the Public Safety and Wellness Plan that was developed in 2020. We were seated at that table. We were part of developing that plan. I am part of our co-chair at that committee, and we contribute to ideas and the long-term big picture of improving public safety in Thompson. Over the last 6 months, our GIS unit has proactively and aggressively targeted prolific offenders and dangerous offenders in Thompson. They conduct curfew checks almost every night, make sure that some of our most dangerous criminals are abiding by their conditions. Our GIS unit is very successful with several search warrants relating to drugs and guns in Thompson over the last 6 months, targeting dangerous individuals that are linked to gangs. So this is an example where GIS unit seized a large amount of drugs and money associated with criminal activity and guns not too long ago. And recently, our GIS unit worked closely with the Winnipeg Guns and Drugs unit and seized multiple guns from a suspected gun trafficker that was living here in Thompson. So those are some things that we have done. Obviously, it's continually evolving based on our consultation with stakeholders, the council, and the committee, Public Safety and Wellness Committee, as well as groups trying to do this with the information in the information flow interface.
Thank you. City Manager McGinnis?
Thanks for your presentation. We met the last time we saw you there. So council did review, you correctly did review the RCMP report on what happened with your daughter. According to that report, the individual wasn't linked to the homeless shelter. So they weren't associated with that. And I believe you could still speak with Inspector Worrell after this if you want to have a meeting in order to discuss pressing charges or doing anything further like that. So I believe the inspector would make himself available to you if you want to discuss any of that specific incident. With respect to your presentation on the comments about the Liquor Commission, I can just clarify for you. So council doesn't actually vote on the placement of business in the city. What council does is they zone land for specific uses. So anywhere that there's commercial land in the city, any type of commercial operations allowed to set up shop there. So with respect to the Liquor Commission, that never did come to council for a vote. The province of Manitoba paid the City Center Mall. The City Center Mall is actually the owner of the building who built it for them, and they lease it from them. It would have never, it didn't involve council whatsoever. So it's not something that council has the ability to regulate. With respect to the homeless shelter, yes, that was a building that was donated by the province of Manitoba. The original plan that the community wanted is through the CMHA and the Reaching Home program of the federal government. A study was done by a group called MNP to build a new build down by the Hope North facility down on Princeton Drive South. Unfortunately, the capital wasn't able to be raised to build a new build. And what the province did was offer to donate the 3 Polaris buildings to the city for uses for a healing and sobering center. And that's why it ended up being in that Polaris 5 building as the province. Right now it's currently phase 1 of what's happening. Phase 2 of what's rolling out this summer is the building will be renovated and there's going to be secure cells put in there so that people who are intoxicated, grossly intoxicated, would be helped for their safety and for the community's safety prior to being released. And with respect to some of the things that council has been doing, working with the RCMP, as well as with the CSOs, Inspector Worrell is probably going to discuss tonight some of the policing priorities that have been set by council to tackle the issues that we're seeing downtown and around the community. And as the inspector said, there's already been a few enforcement blitzes that we're already seeing changes in behavior downtown as a result of those, and the number of tickets and arrests that have been made there. And then the RCMP, I think Inspector Worrell is also going to present shortly. They put together a study on a new policing unit for council's consideration to tackle some of the issues in the downtown with targeted enforcement to deal with the issues that the community is seeing is unhappy about. So that's something that council will review as part of their budget process for the year. The other major initiative that the council has done over the past couple of years was slightly delayed because of COVID, but is the creation of the community safety and well-being plan. I believe I shared a copy with you. There's copies on the table if anyone in the public would like a copy tonight. It's also available on the City of Thompson's website. That was developed in consultation with the community. So I believe about 20% of the community responded to surveys and provided input into the creation of this plan. It was created jointly with about 30 different agencies in the community, having to do with law enforcement, social service agencies and whatnot. So this is a multi-pronged plan that's meant to go over 5 years to tackle the most prolific issues in the community. There's 6 main areas to it. The first one is integrated alcohol management to deal with the community's issues with alcohol and addictions, the demand on policing resources, systemic inclusion and racism, issues with housing and homelessness, youth involved crime and harm, and the built environment and social infrastructure. So the City of Thompson was the first community to develop one of these. And as I said, it's a work in progress. We're just in the initial phases of rolling it out. But it has now become the model plan for the rest of the province of Manitoba. So the current government is rolling this out to about 20 different communities across the province because a number of them are facing the same social crime issues that we're seeing. So council's already, as part of their budget last year and this year, investing dollars to try to hit some of those targets. So I encourage everyone to have a look at what the targets are in there. And there's also opportunity for people to get involved with the agencies or the different groups that are involved there. So, and then with the response to the drugs and liquor issues, council's also, as through the community advisory board, working on an alcohol strategy for the community. So not just with people with addictions downtown, but also involving the Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries, who's going to be joining our advisory. Council's also taking a stand on proposed changes to the regulations that the province is bringing forth that would allow alcohol to be sold even more freely in the community. So under the proposed changes, alcohol could be sold in grocery stores and corner stores. That is something that I believe council is debating at the moment, likely going to oppose that to the province of Manitoba to try to protect the community moving forward. And then looking at other kind of public safety initiatives that they can implement, such as community cameras, differential enforcement, or things to support law enforcement, so that it's easier to catch offenders in the community. One of the other big initiatives is actually lobbying the federal government. One of the things that happened during COVID that people didn't really notice was the federal government made changes to bail, making bail much easier for prolific offenders to obtain. And what we're seeing now, at least through the police reports, is some offenders are being arrested 20, 30 times and being released on bail, sometimes for very, very serious offenses. This is something that's not controlled by the city or by the province, it's controlled at the federal level. So there's a lot of work going on at the city's caucus level, through AMM, as well as with the province of Manitoba and the Solicitor General of the province to pressure the federal government into tightening up those bail restrictions or to make it harder for these prolific offenders in our community to get back out on the streets. So those are a number of initiatives that the council's working on. As we said, we're always open to input, or council's always open to input. And I really encourage people to read the community safety plan. It's quite a lengthy document, very well thought out with a number of strategies and timelines to make our community much safer. And if people want to get involved, they can always reach out to the city. We'll put them in contact with the different agencies that are working on the subcommittees, trying to make the community a better place.
Thank you. So in closing, that is basically the community safety well-being strategy was rolled out last fall to start with, and where we continue to go on. So I encourage everybody here to read it and be part of it, and you can definitely reach out to us and be part of the plan and the solution moving forward. Thank you for your presentation, Jen. We appreciate it.
Okay, are you able though to answer my question about your social media comments?
When I got home and I had read the RCMP report, it was sort of the basis for my comment. That's all I'll say at this time.
Okay, and Anthony, you referred to that the RCMP stated that the individual wasn't connected to the homeless shelter, or I should call it the healing center, actually. That being said, the amount of people you're seeing outside of the healing center and the traffic from the intersection down Princeton, I don't really think you can say whether or not someone's connected there because there's so many people partying out there. It's like a party palace. And when we met, both you and Mayor Smoot acknowledged that people are staying there who are not homeless.
Yeah, that is true. And that's why there's changes coming to how the facility is being operated. So the prime operator is being switched out over the month of June. That process has already started. And there'll be different policies on how that facility is operated with respect to the individuals that are inside the facility or that use the facility. All of that is tracked through a system inside the facility, as well as through software that's provided by the federal government to track individuals who are experiencing homelessness. And the individual who is alleged to be involved in this incident wasn't part of that.
So you can tell me that he wasn't drinking or using drugs outside of the home.
I can't answer that. All I can say is the person wasn't linked inside the home shelter.
Okay, so you can confirm he's never stayed there.
From what I've been told at the records at the time, that individual didn't sleep there. That's what I'm saying.
And again, when I walked in, Council Fitzpatrick was having a side conversation with Council Lundmark about this meeting should be interesting because of her post.
I can't address another person.
Okay. Well, he's right here, so.
I am assuming because we're not used to such a crowd, but Councillor Fitzpatrick, would you like to comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. All I was referring to as well, we don't generally get a lot of presentations from the public. And this is a hot topic around town. So yeah, for me, it is very, very interesting. That's all I meant by that. And thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Next, we're going to community comments and feedback. For anything on the agenda tonight.
I was just here as.
Please state your name.
My name is Ursula Ellis and I live at 103 Great Wolf Bay in Holmes, Manitoba. I'm just here as moral support for my friend Jen Denis, and I was just curious as to whether or not you're going to apologize for the post that you made. It was not conducive person in a leadership position that is trying to make change in our community and support the individuals in the community, especially when they have experienced a traumatic event. If anything, it was embarrassing.
Thank you. My statement wasn't intended to be malicious. It was based on some information I have. So thank you.
Okay, so there's no apology issued.
Pardon?
So there is no apology being issued?
No.
Okay.
Second call, community comments, feedback. Third call, community comments and feedback. Thank you. Seeing none, move on to the agenda. Oh. Come up to the table, please, state your name. Address.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Hilda Bitzner. I work at and reside at South Tower, 364 Princeton Drive. We had our issues there already. And my job there is extremely busy. I kind of dropped out of keeping a close eye on community events, so I knew it was coming up the road. And although I'm in big favor of having extra shelter, extra space for the people at risk, the people that are transient, the ones that are struggling with addictions, I was quite disappointed to find out that there was community voices that were against putting it across from the elementary school. Some of my tenants there, they walked their kid to school. It's a very short walk because down the street. But one of the parents that really kind of struck it out, she took her 5-year-old girl. Her 5-year-old girl will be in school this fall there. So she took her for a walk in the park or the playground there. And in that one setting, she's seen a guy freely using the bathroom outside, oblivious to anyone who could see him. And a little bit further down, there's somebody else. How did she put it? Puking your guts out? And then there was another cluster of 4 or 5 people sharing bottles. Very often I look out from the 9th floor and I will see them in clusters, like just tonight, there was 4 of them right behind the parking lot. So I missed the first part of the presentation. I do apologize, but I'm really hoping that this process of changing things so that the kids are protected, so that more of the neighbors feel safer, is expedited. Another comment is one of the other parents made was, I know some of these little kids escape home because they see addictions in their home. The school was their safety place, but now they see it right across the street. So the privacy the privacy fence is not private at all. And I'm hoping when this changes hands to MKO, who I'm told will have it because they can access more grants, that some kind of fencing is actually put up. Our kids in the Eastwood area, they're so challenged already. We see so much negative there. And to put that place there, it's just like compounding everything in their young lives, and I certainly don't want to see them grow up and think this is what their next step is as an adult. You know, they see it at home, they come back, they go to school, they see it across the street. Well, that's what they will have to look forward to. So that's, just wanted to voice my concerns with that. As a business, we just finally got some people to invest in Thompson, and you know, it's kind of hard to get investors these days. Because of the people at risk of crime, the youth that are lost, I guess, for lack of a better word to put it right now, but the buildings were, the first day of the sale went through September 21st, and the following month this opened. So in the wintertime, I already have challenges just trying to keep people out of the building who don't live there. And we all know that people who don't have a home and they get inside a building and they use the bathroom, they're gonna use in the corner or in the stairwell or just somewhere. So I'm just hoping that whatever changes that the whole community pushes with this to keep it moving at a faster pace than what it's been moving so far, and get that more security around there. Somebody mentioned a 10-foot fence. I said, well, I think 8 would be good. But I mean, just something so the kids don't have to see that. Maybe on the outside of the fence, they can paint it these beautiful colors. So we got to bring some more positive in
Yeah,
there.
so take the one, the community safety well-being plans, that's right there. And yeah, you did miss the first part of the presentation. I'm sure Inspector Worrell would be glad to say that we did it, and Anthony, and that I would like to commend the investors in those properties. They did actually reach out to the city before they even took over the properties to say they wanted to be a partnership with the community safety and well-being plan. So all that is good. Some of your addresses to the fences and to the different things going on, Anthony will speak to here right away.
Yeah, thank you. So in our discussions with MKO on the transition that's planned here, they are planning extensive renovations to that building. There will be changes to the yard and fencing as well as a new entrance. So rather than have the main entrance off of Princeton Drive, the entrance will come off the side or in the back of the building. So that's some of the main renovations. They are also planning more security, especially during school hours and hours when kids are out. Coming and going from school, so those are some more changing in time as well. And I believe the RCMP have stepped up some enforcement outside the building as well for those who are using intoxicating substances on the outside where they're not supposed to be. And another thing that the community has been looking at, or council will be having a look at, is the concepts of the public washings that will be brought forward as something to review. It was first came through as you'll see it's in the community safety plan. For something for council to consider. When the plan came out, the business community said that they would take the lead on it. And at the time, for whatever reason, COVID, it didn't make much progress. So that's something that the administration of the city is going to work on and bring back for council to have a consideration on that as well. And you'll see that that's outlined in the community safety plan.
Okay, and in closing, I just want to commend you on the plan of removing that access from the front, because all we see all day is RCMP and ambulances out there. We used to see that at the South Tower, but I cleaned it up.
And this has always been part of the plan, but in order to open up, get people off the streets and nobody froze from the winter, it just didn't get done, but you'll see the differences, and we'll definitely keep you posted as we're moving along.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me a moment to speak.
Thank you. Any more community comments, feedback? Thank you. Seeing none, we'll move on to report. First is our RCMP report. Inspector Worrell.
Worship Council, thanks for allowing me to speak tonight and deliver the April policing report for you. So I'll start with our resources. Not a whole lot of a change from last month when I reported to you. We had 2 hard vacancies. Those continue. 2 hard vacancies are positions in which the person that was in them has left, and we haven't brought the new person in yet to fill that vacancy. We do know who's coming into those positions, but their move is just taking some time selling their home, and the market's still working in right now. So we're just waiting on them. My expectation though is at least one of those positions will be filled in July. So hopefully there's hope on the horizon. 5 of 9 of our clerical positions are presently staffed with a new hire presently awaiting security clearance, and I'll bring us up to 6 staffed positions. So again, good news that we are getting a new clerk, hopefully whenever the security clearance is done. Moving to our crime trend reporting, the period of January 1st to April 30th of this year, we've had a total of 5,936 calls for service within the city of Thompson. Compared to the same time period last year, it's an increase of about 8.6%. So we're seeing a little bit of an increase this year. We're seeing that those increases are primarily in the area of property crime, with an increase of 13.7% in both theft and damage to property respectively. I'll speak more on that in just a second. There's not too much of a change in our assaults or aggravated assaults, but we've seen a significant decline of about 17.1% in sexual assaults. We're also experiencing a significant reduction of calls, approximately 150% decline in drug possession and drug trafficking files, as well as 26.9% decrease in impaired driving calls. The prisoner count has increased substantially over last year, approximately 30%, 37% higher prisoner count this year when compared to the same time period last year. For the month of April, the CSO lost 23 prisoners. At the last meeting, I promised you an analysis of the increased property-related calls for service that we were getting. While that review is not quite complete, we do have some preliminary findings that I can share with you. So when we looked at the weather, and I think I mentioned this before, something as simple as weather can really affect property crime. When it's warmer out, some of our criminals are more active because it's more comfortable out, whereas when it's colder, they're not. So a review of just the weather over the last 6 years indicates that we've had exceptionally warm weather this year, and that's negatively contributing to an increase in property crime calls for us. Calls for service in the area of property crime declined over 2021 and 2022, likely due to COVID and restrictions that were in place or possibly outbreaks of illness. But our current property crime statistics and numbers that we're seeing are actually less than they were in 2020 and about the same that they were in 2019. So what that shows us is that there was a lull during the COVID situation, but now our calls for property crime is starting to level and normalize to what they were in 2020. When we reviewed all the property crime files, we found that in 44 instances of theft which occurred this year, the property owner declined to proceed with charges, though the suspect was identified. So that affects property crime because there's no charges or punishment, then obviously that person moves on to continue property crime. So unfortunately, in 44 of those calls, the business owners were or the affected persons were unwilling to proceed with charges. When we did a review, we found that many instances of theft were actually not solvable because the video footage was too grainy and of poor quality. So our technology is changing so much, you know, if your camera's over 5 years old, really we're not able to see a pixelated image that we really can do nothing about. So one recommendation would be if you're concerned about property crime, especially if you own a business, upgrade your cameras, because generally if there's property crime, our officers can identify who's involved. We know who the criminals are. So the cameras were an issue when we were reviewing the files. Finally, vehicle thefts have increased significantly, we found, and we're currently taking steps to secure a vehicle or two and bring them to Thompson to start targeting those property crime offenders that are targeting vehicles. So moving on to community policing, crime prevention initiatives, the good news stories. We had 2 major investigations in April, which included serious assaults and injuries. Some of those were actually life-threatening injuries. Our officers were able to complete arrests in both those instances, and those suspects were all remanded into custody on numerous charges relating to aggravated assault. Those victims for both those instances did survive. All of our officers, but particularly our police community relations unit, are involved in the community policing activities throughout Thompson. And I'm not going to go over the long list line by line that I gave you in the report, because it's quite lengthy, but I want to highlight the proactive work that's being done, such as working with the youth. With our officers participating in the breakfast program that I mentioned. Our officers are participating in the breakfast programs almost every day at several schools in Thompson. They're reading books in the classrooms and establishing relationships with some of our young people here in town. We are participating in several reconciliation activities intended to improve our relationship with the Indigenous population, such as participating in the MLIWG walk that was in April. Providing tours to our detachment and improving our relationship with those that serve here in the community, or the many different committees that my officers are part of throughout Thompson. So my officers are all volunteering in the community on different committees throughout town because they want Thompson to be a better place. We all play a part. We're all actively involved, not only involved, but invested in the community, and I'm proud of the work that's being done with their officers. So Some of our annual policing priorities, we have several, there's three though that are directly applicable to the city of Thompson that I'll report to you monthly. The first one is creating and tracking joint CSO and RCMP initiatives intended to track or target, downtown public disorder. So when I went around to our stakeholders in the community and asked them, where do you want us to focus police resources? The feedback that we got was primarily two categories: public social disorder downtown and substance abuse in Thompson. Some of the policing priorities that we put in place to address those was joint CSO initiatives intended to target downtown public disorder. So we're taking steps to work closely with our CSOs to address the concern of public disorder in the downtown core. But I'm first going to remark that the significant issue of public intoxication and substance abuse and homelessness and mental health is a complex social issue. And it's much larger than public safety by itself. It requires collaboration and cooperation and partnership with many different organizations, not just the RCMP. We're increasing our enforcement efforts by working with the CSOs to enforce both the municipal bylaws and the provincial liquor laws, primarily relating to unlawful consumption. And as I mentioned previously, on April 21st and 22nd, our officers paired with the CSOs and targeted a downtown transient crowd, during which they issued over $34,000 in municipal and provincial fines, as well as arrested 25 persons under the Intoxicated Persons Detention Act. And at this point too, I'll just say, I don't believe that a jail cell is a proper place for someone that's suffering from mental health issues that's not violent. I don't believe a jail cell or is a proper place for someone that has substance abuse issues or alcoholism issues or that is homeless. We have to find a different way to deal with those people that are non-violent and not committing crimes. Our second priority was to develop a downtown enforcement unit, which the CAO mentioned, specifically focusing on the social disorder downtown. And we recognize the need to increase our visibility and the presence in the downtown core. However, our resources are stretched. So we have submitted a business case to the city advocating for 4 new and additional positions from which a downtown crime suppression unit will be formed, with the primary mandate being to work together with our primary partners in that area. So the CSOs, primary partner being the liquor inspector, the provincial liquor inspector, primary partner being Northern Health Region. So the primary focus of that issue will be on the downtown core public disorder calls. Once that business case is approved, I'll take steps to begin creating those positions and staffing them. That will take time, but we're taking steps in the right direction. The third and final policing priority that I'll report to you every month is that we're going to be, as we have been already, engaging with the provincial liquor inspector and coordinating a minimum of 2 proactive initiatives targeting unlawful liquor sales here in town. We didn't do anything in April, but we'll see moving forward, working with the provincial liquor store to target unlawful sales here in Thompson. And we'll have the floor here too. I'll just mention to anybody in the room. I am always open if you want to come have a meeting with me and discuss maybe ideas that you have on private safety. All you have to do is call my office and ask the officer in charge, and I'm happy to meet with you. So that's all I have. Your worship, listen to any questions.
Thank you, sir. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, you can ask a question.
Yes, you can go.
Thanks for your report. I got a couple of questions. One about the clerical positions 5 to 9. I know like federally they were on strike, but there was some concerns that people couldn't get a criminal record check. Like, are we kind of open for business again at the detachment, I guess, is the
Yes.
easiest question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the public service strike did affect the municipal part of our policing detachment because we don't employ any public servants on the municipal contract side. So criminal record checks are good to go.
Okay. And then are we looking at, so say when we have nickel days, we haven't had nickel days for a bit. So will we have more resources brought in we're still going to target events like that?
Yeah, so we've already been planning for that for several months. So we have overtime shifts that we bring in extra officers on overtime for. We also reach out to provincial traffic unit to bring up all provincial traffic units and provincial units. Help supplement the highways to stop impaired driving and make sure our roads are safe. And my staff sergeant Shane Flanagan is involved in planning the nickel day.
Perfect. And then my last question is, I've never heard about this BAIT program before today.
Mhm.
Can you just elaborate a little bit on that, like
Yeah.
how that works?
Yeah, so this is a BC thing, but BC, coming from BC, we use big cars often and effectively. So vehicle has been equipped with hidden cameras GPS, and it's connected to our safety telecom unit at headquarters. And so we get alerted, we staff the vehicle somewhere in town. I have no problem telling people that there's gonna be vehicles staffed around town that are vehicles. But there's vehicles that are gonna be staffed around town, and we'll be alerted as soon as the doors are open. And if someone attempts to steal it, and if it happens to get, they happen to get the vehicle in motion, we'll be able to track it, and we can also remotely turn the vehicles off. So it avoids pursuit. So
Excellent.
it's a great opportunity to identify, because usually what we find is 90% of the crime is committed by 3% of the population. So if we identify who those people are that are stealing vehicles and deal with them, then the vehicles aren't going to be stolen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment? Councilor Obrador?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. I just had a question about I seen that the RCMP released the Manitoba crime statistics. And I didn't really have time to review it before this meeting tonight, but I'm wondering if you're aware of how our city or our region compares to statistics in other parts of the province. So just kind of the highlights that they showed that looked like maybe we're very comparable to the eastern region, but as I said, I didn't have time to read it before.
Yeah, I don't have seen the report that you've seen, but I have seen internal reports as far as Manitoba policing statistics and crime trends within the province. As far as our property crimes go, the whole province is seeing an increase in property crimes. And what I did notice in the internal reporting is that the rest of the province is noting pretty significant increases in persons crimes, so being assaults, sex assaults. Whereas I'm happy to say that the ones right now is not. So our assaults, our persons crimes are very level. Sex assaults are reported about 17% lower than last year. So it's very similar to what's going on in the rest of the province. For sure.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Anthony?
One of council's areas of lobby, like I mentioned, is on bail reform, and the things that are going on at the federal level. Looking at the number of prisoner increases, are those repeat offenders or those one-offs? So seeing the huge increase that we're seeing this year, are some of those people maybe arrested 20, 30 times and it comes across as a individual statistic?
So many of them are repeat offenders. I don't have the number from the area, but certainly a lot of the crimes that we're seeing committed are committed by repeat offenders, and not usually first time offenders, right? So that said, I did see some information today on the news about the reform initiative. And we saw support meetings tonight, so there's some changes coming to the bail reform issues.
Thank you. I think just listening to the 5 positions at the detachment, clerical positions, is a great change from February when we were down to approximately 2. So congratulations on that. We appreciate it. And the fact that you've recognized that this isn't just something new to our community. This is something that has grown over the last 25 years and has come to a head over the pandemic. And now we're definitely meeting it head on. And even the province recognized that with using Thompson as a pilot project for the community safety and well-being plan. And anytime any of myself or councillors are in front of the province or the federal government, we're always advocating for more resources for the North. And for us as the hub of the North, because we get that many more people. Thank you very much for your report. Thanks for the response. Next, we're going to go to. Yeah, I'm sorry. Next, we're going to go to Community Safety Officer program. Tanya?
So we have 2 of the 4 CSO positions filled. We're hoping that the 3rd position will be back in July. We'll have more notification of that or towards the end of the month. The city administration is going to be meeting with the Manitoba Liquors Lotteries Commission next week. They've actually reached out to us. They're interested in joining the Community Municipal Public Safety Advisory Committee. And they just want to know a little bit more about the Community Safety Officer program. The CSOs last weekend, they attended a nice Columbus and they just security around the TRCC. They've also been out doing bike patrols. On nice days when we're able to get out, they're parking their cars and trying to patrol around the community. We're also working in conjunction, as Inspector said, with the RCMP. So we're going to be doing that every month. So they're going to be working from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. with the RCMP in the downtown area. We've noticed that our numbers for transports for April have increased. We've gone up from 141 in March up to 178 transport, so that could be anywhere from, going to Thompson or the healing center of Y 95 our top number, transports continues to be the healing center, so that's transporting people from the downtown area or any area in Thompson and back to the healing center, that's where they reside. They're also, while they do patrol, they can also issue tickets for handicap parking or any other tickets, public urination, drinking, traffic disorderly. So the month of April, they issued a total of 24 tickets. And we've noticed that our disposable substances have increased again this for April. It went from 138 to 206. And that's anywhere from mouthwash, hand sanitizer, Lysol, hairspray, things. So our numbers are getting out close to the top. Quite a few people in the downtown area.
Thank you. Council, any comments, questions? Council Overdorfer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two questions. My first one is, how long the CSO positions have been vacant for? I know that's been on our reports for quite a few times now that we've had 2 of the 4 positions filled. So I'm just curious the time frame that they've been vacant.
One for sure will be 10 months come July. And the other one, I believe, 4 months.
My other question, or maybe it's more of a comment, kind of a question. Going back to the community safety and well-being plan, is this report that we get regarding community safety, is that a place where we could consider having updates, like shareable updates that come from that table? As a way to communicate that plan more to the community, so the information that might come through more of what's going on and how we're progressing.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Councillor. I can bring that to the advisory on council's behalf and make that request that was come forth monthly updates from the subcommittees. So that's something that we have not done in the past, but we can bring it back.
Anyone else? Thank you, Sonia. Next, we're going to 6.2, the community safety report. Sonia?
So for taxi right now, so this refer to our license inspector and our animal control and our bylaw inspector. So for taxi, we've actually had we've been reviewing the taxi bylaw for quite some time. It is going to their meeting on May 23rd to council. We've been in contacts with the council as well as the taxi industry talking about the bylaw and any concerns that they have with that. We're continuing to do our business bylaw or our business licenses, still addressing those individuals that are in the community who have licenses for years previous, and adding any new licenses on. Our animal control, as well as our license inspector actually went and took a first-aid course, first-aid pet course at the TRCC, because both positions do cover each other. So it was first time offered in Thompson, so it was good for them to be able to go and take part in that. And we are continuing to post information to animal control and bylaw. We did hire May 1st a term position for a bylaw inspector. He is working a mix of days and evenings. He is quite busy from May 1st to today. Just in accessible parking spot tickets alone, over 25 tickets in a matter of just for himself, which is considerable. There's a lot of people parking in accessible handicap spots that they shouldn't be parking in, so they don't have the card to do it. So it's nice to have him out. He's dealing with a lot of the property standards issues. So we have one around town. Our statistics for animal control. We're going to notice that they are going to be increasing for the summer months because again, around people tend to open the doors and let their animals on freely. To date, we have 214 dogs licensed and cats. We have 18. You know that there's considerable more amount of that in our community, so we are going to be trying to do some type of push and promotional, something to try to, let the public know the benefits of having your rehab places for the city of Thompson. And our bylaw staff, again, these should increase for the month, because now we do have somebody in there for a full-time position for the next 6 months, so we're still addressing a lot of, the one big thing is our complaints that are coming in from the community. Neighbors complaining about different things on their street and complaints and such, which are non-ticket items, but they seem to be increasing. Last month we had 16 and we've had.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Okay. Thank you, Sonia. 6.3 is Thompson Fire and Emergency Report. Chief Malloy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening. I'll start off with the memo with respect to station report activities going on around the station over the last month of the bit. So currently, right now, we have 20 of 24 positions filled within our department, which equates to about 20%. At the time of the report, we had an additional 2 members go off on workers' compensation, so that equates to roughly 33% reduction in our staff currently right now. I will be speaking in Brandon on June 5th to the graduating class this year for recruitment purposes. And as indicated there, we have 3 applicants on file. Their class has been bumped down to 5, which 1 right now is eligible to start employment with the city. I just had made contact and I haven't had a response back from them yet. Fuel mitigation around Thompson will start and has started this month as of May 6th. We started with our partnerships with Natural Resources, with the initial pack crews, starting our fuel mitigation in the Manassas area, working from Water Ski Club back to Sturgeon present. I will report that that was a success. We managed to stockpile wood on the vacant lot on the corner of Sturgeon for community members to partake in restocking their fuel. For the wood burning appliances and annual fire pits in our backyards. And we will be starting phase 2 of this process on the west side of Thompson starting this weekend, May 19th, I believe. What we'll do is, as it's indicated here, the plans to open the gates along the River Road from the Riverside Pump House to the gates near the Hillside Martin Mossar Bridge. Of course, traffic will be directional, meaning that one way allowing the general public to drive in the area with their salvage permits carrying out the dead standing and deadfall on both sides of the road. And then, of course, at the same time, Natural Resources have already started. PSAs will be going out this week, advising the public to exercise extreme caution when walking in the areas along Riverside Road, because there will be a lot of activity going on there. With respect to fuel mitigation. The newest acquired fire truck that we took ownership of last year has been recalled due to transmission issues. Received a notice from Fort Garry Fire Truck Winnipeg advising chassis Spartan has to bring the truck back to Winnipeg. So the plan for this is to drop the truck off at the end of May when myself, the past chief John Mascarene will be attending the Manitoba Association of Fire Chiefs Conference in Steinbach. And of course, during the time there, coinciding with the speaking to the grad class on June 5th, the truck, along with the other warranty issues that we've identified, will be repaired and be brought back to Thompson. So for the week of while the truck is down, we acquired again the 179 unit that was donated to the Dayton Lake Volunteer Fire Department. So we'll have that truck back in house for the week, so that the members of my place can go full complement for suppression. Along with that, once we get the truck back later on this year, ladder 180 as well as the ladder truck will be going in for some repair as well. We identified after the Shoppers Drug Mart fire that 2 structural components, 2 side rails, basically have blistered, the term that we use. And we're in talks right now with Cuban Trucks and the manufacturer E1 out of Ocala, Florida, to have that mitigated. So that will be sometime, I'm thinking possibly the fall. We had our annual inspections for the ambulances through the licenses and compliance branch with Manitoba Health, which we passed on June 2nd, so the provisional license has been now granted, and we have land license agreement in effect till December 31st. Deputy Sweeney is attending the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs to speak about fire and emergency services in the north, and I will note that ironically enough, there is a fire currently burning out of control near her community of Cross Lake this evening. Deputy Sweeney and I attended the 2023 Emergency Services Appreciation Night for the Fire Department, Mine Rescue, Work Rescue, Contractor Rescue, and CISM at the St. Lawrence Hall for Valley on April 29th, and I must admit that I too took it, let's say, for granted, but the fact that the workers at Valet that do this type of stuff that we do here in Fire Hall on a volunteer basis just speaks to the dedication of those employees that volunteer their service to help out their coworkers in time of need. And last but not least, May 1st to May 7th, we had the Tim Hortons Cookie Camp National Campaign, which all proceeds going to the Townsend Park, pardon me, which in turn we give back 100% to our communities. I will update that this year we have doubled our record from last year's total sales. This year we have roughly $8,000 in cookie sales. So again, thank you to the community members of Thompson for stepping up to the plate and buying your cookies, because they give to us and then we give back to the people. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's about the station report. The fire reports right now. Fire responses for the current month, we have a total of 38. There has been an error here. There was one general alarm with a value loss of approximately $210,000. Year to date, we have 151 calls. This year, last year, we had 195, so we have a reduction, actually, we're down in numbers at approximately 22.5%. Ambulance responses, again, for the month of April, back to back, we had an extremely busy month. We had 759 calls for the month of April. Year to date was 2,781, which is up 6.15% over 2022 and 2620. On the inspections and prevention, current month, we had 5 inspections conducted. And I will note that this has resulted in a substantial amount of administration penalties as per the fees and fines, totaling a fine of more than $30,000. That will be reiterated in the next month's report. Year to date, we had 14. We're up significantly, or up slightly over 2022 of 11, and we had 5 re-inspections. Fire pits inspections, currently right now in April, there's 2. We had 7 re-inspections. I will note that the community has really stepped up to the plate on renewals for this year. We're getting daily updates from upstairs with respect to renewals and new installs. So because our numbers are down, we're trying to get to our community members in a timely fashion so that you guys can have your backyard fires with your families and friends. So just be patient, we'll get to you as soon as we can.
Thank you. I just have one comment. I have received a few calls on the Millennium Trail about the brush that could fuel a fire vehicle drive this year. So thank you for your report and getting that cleaned up. And then my ongoing complaint is there is one ambulance again that is missing a headlight. So late as last night, I passed them and it is a Thompson.
It's ordered.
Check out the headlights. Go to Councillor Wong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your report. I just want to ask you one of the questions back to the station report. While the new fire truck going down for warranty work, so we say the backup is getting the what that donated as a backup, and I hear you right. That's right, right?
Yes.
Well, my question is, the reason we get rid of the old one because of the standard or whatever reason, because of the time and the age, so we get rid of it. It's not up to the standard. So now, is it allowed to use that as a backup? What's the rule and regulation that status that way? Can we still using that as a backup? I just want to understand the rules and law.
Sure, under the fire underwriter survey of NFP 1901, I mean, basically, first line trucks have a life expectancy of 20 years, and then it goes in reserve for 5 years, allowed the municipality to budget accordingly for replacement value. With respect to 179 and 177, that's strictly sitting at the office of the fire college. One, it's not roadworthy. Two, it hasn't passed its pump test. Paint Lake Volunteer Fire Department, they're in the process of actually having that 179 re-inspected. It has passed its annual pump test through the city of Thompson, so with respect to operating in an emergent manner as a secondary backup, I would much rather have that truck over the one that's currently sitting at the and of course, our partnership with Valley as well, that truck is going to be available if need be as well.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thanks for the report. I have a question about the wildfires and how dry it is. Where are we, maybe that's not you, but I guess as a city, do we have any plans for anything like that?
Well, we met with Natural Resources in late March, early April. With respect to the community wildfire protection plan that we have, as you know, it's a live document. We did meet here last week with Constable Fox, I believe, this week. The next order of business right now is get the other stakeholders, i.e. Valet and MKO and KTC representatives here at the table, so that in the event of, everyone knows what the responsibility is.
Thank you.
Anthony?
Yeah, I can also add, Deputy Mayor, that the province is holding a briefing for municipal officials. So that'll be staff at the city will be taking those webinars, going over the risks and the models that they're creating for this summer. They are anticipating it to be dry and likely for fires to break out. We're already seeing them in Alberta, and that could be creeping into Saskatchewan and Manitoba. So planning for that in the eventuality and hoping it doesn't occur. And also the city's emergency operating center is planning to review the wildfire mitigation plans and response plans should there be a wildfire in the area. And I believe we're hoping to aim for a tabletop exercise to exercise the plan and make sure that we're prepared should something occur.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, would you like to move on to the emergency response for ambulances?
Yeah.
I do that.
Well, thank you, Steve. Seeing no more questions. 6.4 is the Boreal Discovery Center report. Anthony?
This is a quarterly report that is required as this is a controlled entity of the city. It's presented for information. If council has any questions, I can bring them back to the Board of Discovery. Otherwise, there's no further comment from administration.
Thank you. Any comments on the Boreal Discovery letter? Councillor Chong?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had the opportunity to visit the Boreal Discovery. That was my first time in there during the winter time. And I noticed some interesting thing down there, which is the baby sturgeon, whole bunch of it. And they're just a wonderful fish, and I never see such interesting thing like that. And I encourage the people in Thompson like to get involved and support the Boreal Discovery. And you can go there for birthday party, snowshoeing activities, fire pit, and so on. And I guess, and also they have some kind of summertime garden, something like that, that people can have a garden down there, and like some sort of community garden. So I think we don't have a lot of animals down there for us to see, but that is a place down there you can bring kids to learn about our northern boreal forest, flower, trees, whatever it is, and our river, and understand the fish and, all these things. It's quite interesting. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yeah, the Boreal Discovery Center is definitely a great place for Thompson. It's sort of one of its hidden gems, and
Yeah.
they're always looking for board members and input.
Like
also.
volunteer,
Please go on their site and read up on it and step up to the plate. 6.5 is a review of the check registers. Ms. Taylor?
Thank you, Bishop. The memos was circulated with the check registers for the months of September to December of last year. We didn't have anyone in position up until my joining the staff in March, so we're a little behind in getting used to it. Traditionally, our check registers are forwarded to council for review on a monthly basis in the first meeting following the previous month. The audit trails that are in place in the city, which are strictly adhered to for issuance of checks. For example, purchase orders are issued and approved, invoicing is double checked for variances from the purchase orders, and the signatories also review the backup detail for each check prior to endorsing. At one time, each check register was endorsed by resolution of council, but this practice was dispensed with several years ago, with the primary reason being given that the approval was given after the checks were written. The municipal act is subject to interpretation in this instance and can be interpreted both ways. Due to the length of time it has taken to bring these two registers before council, I would respectfully request that council have the mayor or her designate endorse the cover page of the attached registers to indicate these have been received and reviewed by the whole of council. This will then form part of our audit finalists of step change. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from councillors? Councillor Wong?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate for this report, and I know it's not an easy job to put into. I just have a question and a comment later on. Is there any reason why the void check and then reissue the same amount? Any reason why they did that back in some of this September?
It's to conform with our audit requirements. We have to list every check in numerical order. And so our finance package, computer package is set up so that it does record every check, even the ones that are subsequently voided.
I get that point, but what I'm saying, like, for instance, you issue one check to one of the company, the same amount, it voided. Later on, they reissue the same company, same amount. Why need to be void? I just want to understand what's wrong with that check need to be void.
I would have to do further research on that to give you an answer.
Because there's at least more than 10 checks then be void and reissue the same amount, same company. So that I would like to know why void in the first place. Nothing wrong to me, it's the same amount, same company. So and a second thing I'd like to ask you about the comment that you made from the memo. So under the rule, you say you can interpret it both ways, by resolution, or because the logic is because the check or the money already spent. So if the resolution defeated, that would be a problematic. I get that logic there. But as a practice, what is a better way to practice? Okay, to me, I think certain things we can do changes, right? It's not that stone that we cannot make changes. So that comment is very interesting to me. So because I always believe in transparency and art permission. And also another argument we put up before was because it's budgeted, the money is allowed to spend. But also I believe the check register, some of the amounts of emergency is without in the budget. So that's why we use the resolution to make it approval. So, but anyhow, this is way back to 2 terms ago. I'm not going back to argue about it, but I just want to move forward. I'd like to see some sort of a better suggestion to how to handle money. So Of course, now you're in the position, so I'd like to see your professional opinion about all that, and we could have another discussion throughout the budget, the revision and discuss about that issue. So anyway, other than that, I don't see any problem because it's already a long time ago with this check register, and all I can say is like, at least we got to see now. Appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wong. And to make changes, of course, we know all of council will have to participate so that we have the conversation about making change. And I suggest that the voided checks you're concerned about, if you make a list and give them to Ms. Taylor, she'll get you back your answers. Thank you. Any other persons' questions? Seeing none? Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Next, we're going into development, a letter from Thompson Community Development Corporation in regards to development north of the river. Anthony or Mr. Socrates?
Yeah, so this is a letter that we received from the Thompson Community Development Corporation discussing the project they've been working on to develop lots north of the river. These lots would be for sale so that people could use develop alternate types of housing. One of them being large lot, 2 acre size developments for homes, and the other one would be for people who want more like hobby farms or those sorts of developments. There's a recommendation here from the Thompson Community Development Corporation that the city of Thompson consider pricing the lots at $5,000 per acre to move the project along. It's really a part for discussion here, if council be comfortable with that. Normally the administration, when we make recommendations on pricing land, the pricing of the land should be sufficient to cover the development of that area. So in this case, there would have to be roads developed to support this subdivision. And I believe the city administration doesn't believe that 10 lots at $5,000 a lot would be sufficient to fund that road infrastructure to be put in place. So if council were to agree to this sort of a sale, there'd have to be an understanding that council might then have to pay subsequently dollars to put the road in to support this subdivision's development. So it's really for discussion, and if council has further questions, wants more information to provide that direction to us as the administration, and we will respond on your behalf on the next steps on this project. If council endorses the 5,000, then we would respond accordingly.
Councillor Lundmark?
Hi, with that in mind, can we ask for a cost of what it would be to upgrade those roads to the level we need to before we make this decision? Just so we know that it's not double, or so we can set the price right. And I know that we're not developers, so maybe there's somebody we can reach out to ask that.
Anthony?
Yes, Councillor, we can reach back out and ask if they have cost estimates prepared that can be brought back and shared with council.
Perfect, thank you.
Councillor Wong?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Similar to the question to Councillor Lamar, when I read this report, it's like one lot is about 3 acres, right? 3 plus acres, right? And the proposal is 5,000, so roughly about 15 grand per lot, basically. And
I believe most of the developments are between 1 acre and 2 acre.
so how much altogether they can, you said significant to develop the road, how much altogether roughly if everybody interested?
So that's the request that the councillor had previously made. We'll have to get that cost from them. So they've hired a company that would have developed these plans. And then we'd have to make sure that the road was spec'd up to the correct specs for the city of Thompson. And then bring that cost back. I don't have the number tonight because it wasn't provided.
So may I? So that means the 5,000 could be off, could be more. What I'm saying, like, it's not the way that we can make a decision or suggest at this moment.
I would suggest not making a decision tonight, just because you don't have sufficient information. Our own internal estimates on what a gravel road would cost of this size is we are estimating around 100,000, I believe, if not more. So the price that's being recommended here would likely not cover that. But again, I'd have to say we'd have to defer to getting the actual information.
That's all, is not pushing this right now. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Valentino?
So I look forward to the information because I want to see this project move forward. So my understanding in the memo is they need 10 lots sold to get Hydro to come in and put services in?
Yeah, that is correct. Manitoba Hydro will not service a new street or new area without 10 customers basically requiring that service. So they have the power in the area, but they said they will not come out and put the service in without those extra costs unless there's a minimum of 10.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to getting.
And that is
information.
10 lots on either side, like, so you can't sell 5 on the stable side and 5 on the golf course, it has to be 10 in the lot.
In that area.
In that area.
Okay.
Councillor Lundmark?
I was just gonna say what you said, that you need 10 on each side, but also that I think it was Councillor Wong that mentioned there's 1 acre plus lots on the golf course side, and on the other side towards the stables, they're larger lots. So they're 3 acres plus, I believe. And I think that's in the memo as well. Just wanted to mention that. And yes, I'm looking forward to these lots being developed, and I just don't want to make a mistake and price them so low that we're paying more for those roads that need to be redeveloped and to our standards, and make sure that there's adequate drainage and things from that area. Thank you.
Councillor Oberdorfer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'm also looking forward to this development going forward and the benefits that will bring to our community. The letter refers to an attachment that we weren't provided, so if we can just request that they provide that with the other information that we're asking for. I mean, they've indicated the side of the road, it's where they're proposing the first 10 lots, but it would be helpful to understand where exactly they're looking to have that first portion of the development completed. And that would also help answer some of our questions in terms of how much revenue would be generated based on the sale price that they're proposing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so I do believe with the comments, this will not move on to the next stage. Anthony will and Lau will get us some more information and it will come back to us here. Thank you. Next, we're going to go into legislative. 9.1 is an email from AMM in regards to district elections for AMM board positions. Northern June district meeting in June 26th in Thompson. Anthony.
Yeah, it's June 26th in the fall.
Oh, the pause.
Yeah. So this is just a reminder to council that the deadline's fast approaching. If you wanted to put your name forward or be nominated for a position at AMM on the Northern District, that the deadline to do so is on June 1st. And then also, if you're interested in attending the meetings in the fall in June, that you have to let Mel or Tammy know as soon as possible so that we can register and plan for that.
Thank you. 8.2 is AMM resolution. Anthony?
So again, for the June district meetings, the process for the AMM resolutions is that individual councils pass their own resolutions on their own issues that affect the province as a whole. Those are then brought to the June district meetings for endorsement by the Northern District. And those that pass are then forwarded on to the main resolutions committee of AMM, which are then reviewed at the meetings in November. So the deadline, I believe, for ours to get to the Northern District, I believe, are June 1st. Council currently has not prepared any internal ones, but there are 3 resolutions that are attached that are from other communities for consideration by council as co-sponsoring or co-endorsing these moving forward. One of them is on the fair allocation of the cost of policing, having to do with policing costs, not support from the province not increasing over the years, and the numbers of costs that go on to the hub, the shoulders of hub communities such as ours. And the cost should be allocated more fairly by the province. The second one is for the downloading of paramedic responsibilities. This one doesn't really apply to the city of Thompson because we have a professional in-house fire paramedic service. This is one from communities that rely on the province to provide their paramedic service. So I wouldn't recommend council co-sponsoring this, but if council wants to support this in November, that would be okay. And the third one is for the funding criteria for the Building Sustainable Communities Program. It's a very useful program for councils that want to build projects in the community, but it has a strange requirement that 10% of the contributions must come from outside entities. So even if council wanted to put in for a grant and say you're gonna pay the full 50%, they're still requiring you to only pay 40% and find someone else to pony up for the additional 10%. And if council has trouble finding someone to do that, then you can't really apply for that grant. So this resolution is basically saying, if a city council wants to pay their full 50%, let us pay the full 50%. So I would recommend if council wants to endorse or co-sponsor, to consider number 1, and number 3, and pass on number 2 this time.
Thank you. Any comments on the resolutions? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, no, I'm good with the recommendation. I don't think 2 is any benefit to us to be a part of that. We're like joining on to support that with another community, but 1 and 3, absolutely.
Thank you. Councillor Fitzpatrick, did you have your hand up? Okay, you're on mute, but I heard the no. Thank you.
No, thank you, Mayor. No, I didn't have my hand up. Thank you.
Okay, no further comments? 8.3.
No, Mayor.
Mhm.
So these have to be adopted by resolution, so if council wants to pursue these. Numbers 1 and 3, the administration would have to bring them to the next regular meeting of council for a resolution to adopt them, so.
By a show of hands, who wishes to bring them to the next regular council? Carried. 8.3 is a letter from Jason Fiddler, volunteer for Wapanek School, requesting contributions for the upgrades to the basketball court. Anthony?
Yeah, this is a request from a community member, Mr. Fiddler. He's a volunteer working with basketball. He's looking for council support on raising funds to upgrade the basketball courts up by Wapanek School in the Eastwood area. So it's for council's consideration. If this is something that council would like us to pursue further, we could bring it forward through the budget process, and council could decide what to allocate, if anything, toward this project.
Thank you. Any comment?
Thanks, Marissa. So is this, when I read this, is this the basketball courts on the school property?
Yeah,
I believe so.
Okay,
it's actually the ones that are right in front of the school doors. He's hoping to upgrade them.
okay. So can we also have this to our joint meeting with the school district as a discussion or an agenda item for when we meet with them? And also, I think we should offer him some different suggestions for grant opportunities, like Thompson Community Foundation, if we can provide him some assistance in different grants that are available also.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Oberdorfer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Similar to Deputy Mayor Valentino's comments, I was gonna ask which courts he was referring to. I assume they're the ones at Wapanek School, community school. And do we know, has he had any conversations with the school district yet, or this is the only information we have at this time?
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, this is the only information we have at this time. If we have questions, we can bring them back.
Yeah, I would just be curious to know if this is a type of project that can be funded through the public school finance board, like if the school district has already looked into any plans to upgrade any of that area, that type of thing. So, thank you.
Thank you. He actually reached out to me a month or so ago asking if he could drop a letter off here, because as a citizen, he wanted to upgrade the courts and was hoping to bring this out more for get communication out to the general public of what he would like to do. So this is the first step of that. Okay. Question? No. I'm sorry, Councilor Landmark, sorry.
Hey there. Yeah, we've got to appreciate these things when people are bringing this forward, some development that can help with our youth and anybody else that wants to do some recreation. And I'd just like some more information. I'm sure that Sonia probably has some ideas that were grant applications that she could point them towards as well. But I'd like us to make sure that we keep this in mind with for our next meeting with the Mr. Lake School Board and in our budget coming up. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, any more comments? Seeing none. Oh, sorry, Yuri. Thanks from Kyler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say, this evening, seeing all you people here, I'm very happy of the outcome. And if we could have this everybody, it would help the community. We need to work together. Neighborhood watches, you guys set up a neighborhood watch, but to like every meeting that I'm new, I'm still learning new stuff. Rome wasn't built in a day. I'm still learning. But each meeting, you'll see one person here every time we're sitting here tonight again. But seeing all of you here, it gives us a lot of feedback from the community. And this is what we'd like to see. You guys attend, give us feedback, work with us. We're here to work with the whole community to make it safer for everybody. So thank you.
Thank you. With that being said, I'd also like to thank everybody for the respect and that they showed tonight and large delegation. Thank you for coming. You're welcome every Monday at 7 p.m. Long weekends, it's Tuesday at 7 p.m. With that, I'd like to call for adjournment. Deputy Mayor Valentino, Councilor Wong, all in favor?
Aye.